My dad, 50, came out when I, 25 female, was 9 and essentially breaking up the family since he divorced Mom. She was rightfully mad and in the divorce took him to the cleaners, which she didn't fight that much. She got primary custody of me and my siblings, 23 female and 20 female, and we didn't want to see Dad, and my mom encouraged it as she and my uncles and aunts and Dad's family made it nearly impossible for him to spend time with us, which back then we really didn't want to spend time with him, though he tried his hardest. Extended family isn't really open-minded. We had a strange relationship backed up by many of my mom's mean comments about him. It became worse when he introduced us to his then boyfriend, now husband, Seth, 50 male, 2 years after the divorce. I really didn't like Seth since I saw him as a confirmation that my parents' marriage was dead. I was really rude to him to the point he stopped coming over their house whenever we visited. This stopped when they got married, and my dad basically told me that if I didn't respect his husband, I wasn't welcome to his house, which further strained our relationship, and I stopped going to his house entirely. I think our relationship died when I asked only my mom to walk me down the aisle. He didn't say anything, but he stopped trying hard in our relationship after my wedding. Over the years, I've seen my dad less and less, but he's there on special holidays and dates. He and Seth mostly travel or spend too much time together. They barely have time for others. Last weekend, I went to visit my dad and his husband, Seth, for a family barbecue. Seth had invited some friends who I'd never met before. During the party, I overheard my dad talking with one of Seth's friends. My dad said, "Sometimes I wish I'd met Seth sooner before I ever married Jane, my mom, and had kids. Don't get me wrong, I love my kids, but things would have been so much simpler if I wasn't trying to live a lie for so long. I could have avoided all the drama with the divorce." Hearing him say that really upset me. It felt like he was saying he regretted having us and that we ruined his chance at happiness. I had already felt distant from him over the years, which confirmed my fears that he didn't want to be a father. At that moment, anger and hurt took over, and I confronted my dad in front of everyone. I yelled at him that it was unfair to say he wished we weren't born just so he could be gay sooner. He tried to backtrack, but the damage was done. I stormed out and haven't spoken to him since. My siblings are on my side and have had low contact with him. He's been calling non-stop, apologizing and saying he didn't mean it. Seth recently texted me calling me childish and saying that me and my family are rude people who are just mad and bitter. My dad finally found happiness, and now the text is making me doubt my reaction. Am I the idiot? Answer this, OP. Would he have said this if you and your family hadn't been making his life a living nightmare after coming out? Wouldn't you agree life would have been easier for him, and you, by the way, if you'd gotten along after the divorce? I cannot imagine the burden of having my kids hate me for something that is out of my control. Yeah, OP admits to keeping her distance from her father on purpose, for allowing the estrangement to continue, even after she was an adult and could have reconnected. She excluded him on her wedding day. OP, you can't demand unconditional love from a parent whom you've pushed away and alienated every chance you got. At some point, people have the right to give up on you and live their best life without you. No kidding. Why does a person want to spend more time with people who mentally and emotionally abuse him? And OP is trying to compare decades of neglect and abuse to one single comment during a moment of honest catharsis. Like OP wants everyone to dwell on one comment of her father's to overlook their entire family's decades of abuse. I'm glad that poor guy found love. He deserves it. This chick hasn't understood that her father is a person too, and his journey has also been complicated. Like, seriously, grow up and get over your stuff. Jeez, you are the idiot. Your dad was mistreated greatly by your mother, her family, and his family. They're the reason in the early years you had no relationship. A responsible parent, your mom, should have encouraged you to see your father. Your mom sucks. Your father is gay. That's not his fault, and that is not something to apologize for. Maybe he wishes he didn't have kids because he thinks you all hate him and would be better off without him. I can only imagine the crappy things that have been said to him over the years, given that you all blame him for the marriage falling apart because he's gay. You are hurt, you need therapy, and you need to stop projecting that on your father. My husband and I bought a home 4 months ago, and his friend and co-worker lives next door with his wife and their 6 kids. We both have infants. When we bought the home, it needed repair. All the carpets needed to be ripped out as they were repulsive. All the walls needed repair, holes in walls, and repainted. But my husband dragged his feet because we just had a baby and he didn't want to add more to our plate. He decided to do repairs this week. Before giving birth, I was a general contractor working in construction since I was 15. I have helped build multiple homes, done flooring, painted, and even done concrete work, foundations, so I'm very experienced in that department. My husband is not. He's worked in restaurants since he was a teen, so he has no idea what he's doing. I planned to repair the walls and paint them when he worked on the rugs. After that was completed, I planned to build all of our own shelving, as our home lacked storage space of any kind, including closets. Along the way of assessing, we noticed some outside work that absolutely needed to be done to prevent mold and moisture, which he would also take care of. And as an added measure, I planned to build our bed. We're currently sleeping on a mattress on the floor because our stuff was destroyed in a flood prior to our move. So I was going to build us a frame like I've done multiple other times. Now on to the issue. My husband has decided I can't help him because of the baby. The place is small, so he doesn't want the baby inside. He says that me building anything will take too much time and has decided to go out and buy shelving and bed frames at a much higher cost than I could build one for. He bought all white paint instead of the paint we agreed on because this way is just faster. And his buddy's wife next door came over yesterday with her own 5-month-old to see how things were going and asked him if she could help. He said yes, despite knowing that I'm going mental because he won't let me do anything, even though this is literally my profession. She just stuck a kid in my kid's jumper and started helping. As soon as he told her she could help, I just took my baby and left. I told him I'd be at my mother's. He's now upset with me because I don't understand that he's just trying to get this done. So I commented on the fact that he should have let me help him, but instead he allowed his buddy's wife to do something I should have been doing in the first place. He says I'm overreacting because I know why he didn't want me helping, but if they don't care that their kid is around it, then that's a them problem. I don't even want to go back now. I'm so disgusted that he's even letting her help, knowing that I'm already angry that he won't let me do anything. Am I the idiot? Sounds to me like your husband has some weird gender role hang-up. You are not the idiot. I think his manhood is threatened by your ability to do traditional male tasks, and he wants to keep you in a female childcare role. I wouldn't want to go back either. You're either going to have to stand up for yourself and work on a compromise with husband, or move on with your life. I think you're right. Yesterday, he had a buddy over here who's also a general contractor, and he texted me and said, I wish you were here learning this stuff with me, knowing that I already know it all because I'm a general contractor myself. It felt like he didn't take me seriously. Wow, that was insulting. In my opinion, what he texted you showed a huge lack of respect. Text him that. I already know how to do this stuff. I get paid to do it every day. It's my literal job. It's how we afforded to buy this house. If he gets mad, screw him, but don't have another baby with him. I, 24 male, casually dated a girl, 23, for about 5 months. And even though she was on birth control, she ended up pregnant. Now I have no desire to be a father, so I asked her to end it and told her if she didn't, I wouldn't be around during the pregnancy and would want to do a DNA test after the birth before I would contribute anything at all. She decided to keep the baby for some reason, even though neither of us was financially able to take care of it anyway. I was very annoyed with this and broke off contact. At 4 months, she had a loss. Her friend informed me about it and was told she was heartbroken. Now, I have empathy for the physical pain she has to go through. Still, the result was very beneficial to me, and honestly, I was pretty happy I no longer had to become a father. My buddies and I went out drinking to celebrate, made some toast to the fact that I would not have to father, and basically word got around that we'd done that, which eventually reached my ex and her friends. Now, she and her friends have been harassing me and my friends for being happy about her loss. However, as I see it, we didn't specifically celebrate it, but the fact that I wasn't going to be forced to be a father, and I feel like it had nothing to do with her. So, am I the idiot? You're not the idiot for being excited. You aren't a father. You are the idiot for celebrating how you did. Next time, don't celebrate the messed up thing that caused it to happen. Just celebrate you aren't a father. Hopefully there isn't a next time, and if you get somebody pregnant again, you'll be ready for it next time. Also, just for the record, there are a ton of contraceptives outside of birth control. It's not just on the woman to use contraceptives if you don't want kids, lol. You have to take an equal part in that. Anyway, if you get the chance to legitimately apologize, you should. I like your sentiment here, but this dude is an idiot. He will never apologize. Opie, you're a callous idiot and need some self-analysis. What you and your friends did was really messed up. You don't have empathy for this woman, or you would have privately gathered with your friends to drink and raise a toast. It sounds like you're an idiot beforehand, so the good news is that nothing's changed. Your ex is mourning a baby she wanted, a child that was growing inside her that she loved, and you went out and celebrated the death of said baby. She ended up pregnant? What? You had nothing to do with it, it just magically happened? Poof, pregnant. Grow up, moron, and go get a vasectomy if you don't want to have children and can't be bothered to care for your part in impregnating someone. She didn't end up pregnant. You had intimacy, and that is the natural outcome. My mom celebrated being 20 years married to her husband John last weekend. They were throwing a party for all their friends and family to celebrate. My family and I were supposed to go, but I had to tell them we wouldn't make it a few days beforehand because 2 of my children were sick. We live in another state, so we had to travel to be there, and there was no way that was happening when I had 2 sick kids. My mom told me not to say I wouldn't be there and to wait and see how things worked out that Saturday because maybe everyone would all be better and we could still drive out and make it. But the kids were still sick. Our youngest was worse and was hospitalized later that night while the party was ongoing. Thankfully, we got him home Sunday, but it was a lot. My mom called me yesterday to ask why I hadn't found a way to make it work. She told me she would have thought celebrating my parents' 20-year wedding anniversary would have been my #1 priority. I told her it wasn't my #1 priority, my children were. She told me of course, but she would still imagine I would make it a priority to celebrate my parents' marriage. I told her not in those circumstances. She said celebrating your parents is supposed to be a good thing. I pointed out to her that it was not my parents' anniversary because she'd never told me about her and my dad's wedding anniversary. He died when I was only 6. And that while her husband is a great guy and I get along fine with him, she can't keep acting like her marriage to my dad and my dad didn't exist. For context, I said this to my mom because after my dad died when I was 6, she stopped talking about him. She never wanted me to ask about him. And when she got remarried, she wanted me to take her husband's last name and agree to be adopted. She pushed the narrative that he was now my dad and that it was disrespectful to her husband and the life they were building to mention my dad again. She would talk about her husband being her only love, her true love, and how he gave her all her kids. She erased my dad and she argued with her own family from time to time when they would mention dad. Her family said she and my dad adored each other while he was alive and they couldn't understand it. My mom's husband honestly didn't care about me talking about my dad, or mom for that matter, but mom refused. She was upset when I used a female version of my dad's name for my daughter. She was upset that my wife and I had a photo of dad at our wedding. She really wants everyone to forget about him and focus on her current marriage. Anyway, during this disagreement with mom over her anniversary, and after I said that to her, she told me that she's been married for 20 years and I'm almost 30, so her husband deserves to be acknowledged as my dad and their marriage deserves to be a priority for me. She told me she was ashamed of my childish behavior. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Your children come first, that's obvious. There is something off about your mother which was apparent even before you described how she'd erased your bio-father from existence. No caring grandparent would insist you prioritize her celebration over a child's health, especially if they've been hospitalized. She is definitely the idiot here. I love how she says OP is being childish while throwing a temper tantrum about OP not going to her party because his kids were sick. Who's the childish one here? She must have been a peach to grow up with. Your mom's anniversary is not your parents' anniversary and literally has nothing to do with you. Even if it was your parents' anniversary, your children should still come first. What is it with all these remarried parents trying to stuff their spouse into the parent role and erase the actual parent? Yeah, in what world does she live? On this planet, parents should always focus on the well-being of their kids, especially if they're sick. That's an absolute given. For her to expect you and your family to travel that far with 2 sick kids is very unreasonable, no matter what the occasion. My wife and I have separate money. It's something we've always done, and for the most part it works out. We make about the same and have a 50-50 split. Same thing with chores. My main issue is that I spend so much on her and she rarely does the same. My biggest thing is going on dates. It's good for both of us, but over time it's put a sour taste in my mouth that I have to plan them all and pay for all of them. I've explained this before to her. This month I asked her to take me out for once. She planned a date at a nice restaurant. Overall, it was a lovely night, and when the check came, she didn't pick it up. I asked if she was going to pay, and she looked shocked. I explained that she'd taken me out this time and needed to pay. That every time I take her on a date, I will pay. She paid, but in the car caused a huge argument. She thinks I'm a jerk for making her pay, and my argument is the same above. Edit, we have separate money. It works for many couples, and it's worked for us until this one hiccup in 7 years of marriage. We did it since we're not financially comparable. It would drive me crazy how much she spends and saves. She goes on binges of each. I prefer to just stick to my budget plan. Not the idiot. I totally don't get what her problem is unless she's misogynistic in the way she thinks, like, a man must always pay for dates. Tell her that her beliefs are outdated, and if she can't take turns, then she's being unfair. Marriage counseling may help her understand because it will be a third party telling her instead of you. Maybe she's embarrassed to pay. The service don't give a hoot about whose card is being swiped, and who cares what strangers think anyway? So when I plan the dates, you want me to pay, right? And when you plan the dates, you want me to pay, right? And we split finances 50-50, right? Your wife is giving me my money is my money and your money is my money vibes. This is so crazy to me in marriage, but each to their own. If you're married, I don't understand not having a joint card you can use for joint activities like dinner. Then each person would pay an equal portion of the bill. Why not contribute an equal amount weekly to a date fund and use that when you go out? You'll know it's split 50-50 and you'll stop ruining date night over money arguments. Dude, wake up. Keeping money separate never actually worked for you. You ignored the problem until you finally said, hey, this is unfair. You need to pay your fair share. And she told you to suck it. When you say it worked for you, all I can say is ignorance is bliss.